till I can't no more.
I got the horses in the bag. Horse stock is a tag.
Hi everyone and welcome to Protocol 36. Today's video will be about in ways Marvel Studios could introduce Norman Osborn into the MCU. We know that both Marvel and Sony have said before that right now they want to use Spider-Man villains that haven't been seen in live action yet, as that is why we have characters like Vulture, Shocker, Tinkerer and Mysterio in the MCU Spider-Man films. But at some point they would have to do Spider-Man's greatest and most personal villain Peter Parker has faced, and that be the Green Goblin, aka Norman Osborn. Okay, so the way they could introduce Norman Osborn into the MCU is by introducing him as the Iron Patriot first. Yes, Norman Osborn is and will always be the Green Goblin, and the Green Goblin has always been a Spider-Man villain. However, as Norman Osborn, he is one of the most dangerous villains on Earth in the Marvel Universe. And the reason why they could introduce Iron Patriot at first is because of the state the MCU is in right now. Even though the mantle of Iron Patriot already exists in the MCU with James Rhodes, aka War Machine, where he became Iron Patriot in Iron Man 3 with his armor being the same colors as the American flag, because the president wanted an American hero separate from the Avengers and Iron Man. Plus, the name War Machine was a little too violent. However, after the events of that film, he pretty much dropped that mantle, and I wouldn't be surprised if Norman picked it up to be not only the new Iron Man but also the new Captain America. In Spider-Man Far From Home, people were asking where the Avengers were and if they were even a thing anymore. It was a question people in Peter's school were asking, and also in the post-credit scene Talos was talking to Nick Fury saying that he needs to come back to Earth, as everyone kept asking him where the Avengers are. Since both Iron Man and Black Widow died in Avengers Endgame, Cap and Hawkeye pretty much retired, Bruce Banner has a messed up arm due to him wielding all 6 of the Infinity Stones and bringing everyone back, and Thor went up to space with the Guardians of the Galaxy and passed down the mantle of King to Valkyrie. Not to mention, after Iron Man died, everyone in the MCU also were asking who will be the next Iron Man, since Tony was known as Earth's greatest defender before Infinity War. So Marvel Studios are kinda in a perfect situation where if they want to, they could adapt the Dark Reign storyline, leaving a villain that's already a hero, and that being Mysterio, where people believe that Spider-Man killed him, making him look like the villain, which Kevin Feige even said that Spider-Man 3 will be about a story where everyone thinks Spider-Man is the villain, and it would be the most personal story for Peter. In the past, there were also rumors and teasers from Marvel Studios they may be doing the Thunderbolts sooner or later. There were even reports that Marvel even has a complete script of the Dark Avengers. Whether they will make a Dark Avengers film later down the line is unknown, but a script is there just in case if they want to use it in the future. It's also worth noting that Sony was about to use Norman Osborn in the Silver Sable and the Black Cat film. However, there were reports that Marvel asked Sony to let them use Norman Osborn in the MCU instead, and Silver Sable and Black Cat film is currently struggling to be produced right now. Whether those reports are true or not, we don't know. However, we just have to wait and see. I know that the Thunderbolts and the Dark Avengers are two completely different teams in a way, but it is important to remember that Norman Osborn was also the leader of the Thunderbolts in the Secret Invasions comic storyline, where him and the Thunderbolts fought alongside the Avengers to fight against the Skrulls. And Norman was the one who pretty much landed the finishing blow against the Skrulls. As that was happening, he was being filmed by the media, which led to the public seeing this quote-unquote heroic act, because this is Norman Osborn we're talking about, of course, basically making him a public hero to everyone, and in turn was awarded the complete control of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers Initiative, which went under the Thunderbolts Initiative by the President of the United States. Tony Stark, who I believe was the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time, was kicked out of S.H.I.E.L.D. and took all the blame for what happened. After that, Norman turned S.H.I.E.L.D. into Hammer. And most importantly for this theory video is the fact that Norman also took over the Avengers Tower in the comics. While in the MCU, we know somebody already bought the Avengers Tower, and in Far From Home we see the new building complete. Right now people are speculating whether it's Oscorp or the Fantastic Four's Baxter building, but for me I believe there are more evidence suggesting that it's Oscorp rather than the Baxter building. However, I could definitely be wrong, and I wouldn't be disappointed if it was the Baxter building, since it would be great to see Marvel's first family come back home. And if they want to, they could even have the benefactor from Ant-Man and the Wasp, who apparently doesn't take no for an answer, is actually Norman Osborn. Not only did he buy Avengers Tower, becoming Oscorp, but also trying to buy some quantum technology, as we know that Norman is incredibly wealthy and is a character who wants to pretty much control everything. Where would Norman get the Iron Man suit from? Well, in Civil War all, we know that Tony signed the Accords and was with it through and through. But when he signed, he also meant that his technology and weapon went under the United Nations, which means that all his equipment and suits Tony built belongs to the government, and that's how Norman will get his hands on the suit, which is what happened in the comics with the Superior Registration Act. In what film could Norman appear in? I think it's possible that he could appear in Spider-Man 3, not as the main antagonist of the film, but as a surprise cameo in a post-credit scene or a minor role in the film. Maybe Peter could meet the MCU's version of his son, Harry Osborn, in college, after Peter graduates and becomes new best friend, and then possibly get a tease of Norman. Another appearance could be Avengers 5 or another Avengers film. We know that ever since Disney Sony renewed their new Spider-Man contract in September of 2019, Tom Holland is set to appear in 2 MCU films, one being Spider-Man 3 of course, and the other being a guest appearance in the MCU film, not too different from his appearances in Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. And I do think that whatever film Norman will appear in, Peter Parker will also be in that same film. I know that a lot of you are wondering, if Norman was to appear as the Iron Patriot in the MCU, does that mean that we will never see him as the Green Goblin in the MCU? I don't see why they wouldn't include the Green Goblin later down the line in the MCU, because that's the alter ego Norman Osborn is mostly known as. And one of the reasons why I say they could introduce him as Iron Patriot at first, we've seen the Green Goblin multiple times in live action. Yes, most of those have been Harry Osborn. Marvel Studios have shown that they want to do something different from other versions when it comes to adapting the same character. This doesn't mean they won't do the Green Goblin, but if I had to guess, I don't think they will do the Green Goblin anytime soon. However, one way they could make Norman become the Green Goblin, and I hope they go into that direction if and when they introduce Norman, is after he becomes Iron Patriot for a bit, favor of the public and the leader of the Dark Avengers, the new lineup of the Avengers would go up against them, instead of leading towards the Siege comic story. The story where the Dark Avengers was trying to take over New Asgard, where in the comics it was in Oklahoma instead of Norway. There would be a massive battle between the New Avengers and the Dark Avengers, and Spider-Man would be the one to deliver the final blow to Norman and his plans, where it would leave Norman to be consumed by revenge and obsession for Spider-Man, where he would develop the Goblin Serum and tech to match his strength and powers, inventing the mantle of the Green Goblin, where his rivalry in the MCU would go from it's just business to it just got personal. However, what about you guys? What ways do you want or think Norman will be introduced into the MCU? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, and I would really appreciate if you could subscribe and help me reach my goal of getting 100 subscribers. Also, to begin Protocol 36.